This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, good evening. At this point in time, I'd like to call this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It's our August 10th, 2020 meeting. If we'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And at this point in time, I'd like to introduce the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission that are here this evening, at least that I see on our chart here. We have J.P. Benoit, who is the Vice Chairperson of the Commission, James Fitzsimmons, a Commission member, Jeff Cohan, also a Commission member, Steve Allenson, and alternate on the Commission, Casey Han, who is our Town Planner, Tom Talbot, who's been assisting our Town Planner for these last several months, and we have Cheryl Ann Tubby, who's our Recording Secretary. I'm Jim Seichter, the chairperson of this commission, and if I'm correct, I don't believe Mr. Hine has been able to get on the call, and Mr. Matarazzo, who's a commission member, indicated to me that he will not be able to attend the meeting. So therefore, if I might ask Mr. Fitzsimmons, who's always the go-to person, if he would, in place of Mr. Matarazzo, if he might be willing to note correspondence for the record. And I've just noticed now that Jamie Hine has also joined the call. And with Mr. Matarazzo not being in attendance, I'd ask Mr. Allenson if he would take Mr. Matarazzo's place for all of the applications. And before we get started, as I've done in the prior meetings that we've had on GoToMeeting, just want to read just some of the general rules as far as how the meeting is conducted. And what I like to do is just explain how we're again going to conduct the meeting based on GoToMeeting. As many people are in their homes, if your microphone is not muted, please mute it. If that's not possible, please be conscious of the noise around you. Microphones all have different devices with different levels of sensitivity. And the GoToMeeting system does not deal well with multiple simultaneous speakers. The audio from only one person will come through at a time. Therefore, please only speak if I acknowledge or recognize you. If there's an exchange going on between a presenter and the questioner, each of you must be speaking before responding so a person can start. As a meeting organizer, I have the mute all button. If individuals are not participating respectively, I'll be forced to mute all so the person who has the floor can be heard. If I mute all while you're speaking, please be patient. I'll allow you to resume speaking as soon as reasonably possible. Most individuals viewing this meeting, I assume, are familiar how the Planning and Zoning Commission conducts its meetings. For those who are not familiar, here's a general overview. The applicant and/or its representative makes a presentation of the application, after which Mrs. and/or Mr. Talbot will then have the opportunity to ask questions, provide additional information. Members of the commission will then have the opportunity to ask questions. I will ask each commission member individually, beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons, if they'd like to ask any questions concerning the application. After the commission members have the opportunity to ask questions, the public will have the opportunity to comment on all applications. Once the public has had the opportunity to comment, the applicant will have the opportunity to make any final comments, and commission members will have the opportunity to ask any final questions or discuss the application. Once completed, the commission will take action on the application. For members of the public who want to be heard during the meeting, please keep this in mind. There's a chat bar you can open by clicking on the icon. It looks like a speech bubble near the top right portion of the screen. When I ask for public comment, please type into the chat bar that you would like to speak. Each will be called upon in the order your respective requests are received. Members of the public who have logged in to just watch, if you do not intend to participate in the meeting, please turn off your cameras. If you have dialed into the toll-free number and are listening through a traditional telephone, I have no way to identify you. I will not see your name or phone number. I will simply see you as caller 1, 2, 3, depending upon how many callers we have. I will attempt to call on you for a comment in the order in which you called in. Those who log into the meeting through a smartphone or computer, please select the screen name. Anyone speaking for the applicant or a member of the public must identify themselves by providing their name and address for the record. For those of you viewing the meeting, the agenda materials are posted on the town website. There's a tab on the right side, second below the heading, this week's meeting. That pretty much goes for how we will conduct this evening's meeting. Moving on to our next order of business is consideration of our minutes of the July 13th, 2020 meeting. So at this point in time, I'd ask if there are any commission members who would like to make any corrections, additions to those minutes, and if not, I'd entertain a motion on the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes of July 13th, 2020.
We have a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. The minutes are approved. Moving on to our, well, before I get to our first item on our agenda, I'll note some items that are not going to be heard this evening. New business item number 4, which is a special permit location of use. Excuse me, which is a site plan for W. Yulbrick at 71 Curtis Avenue. That's application number 20720, and that application has been withdrawn. The next item, again, is a new business item. It's item number 5 on the agenda, site plan, DT Warren Family Trust, 809 North Main Street Extension. That applicant has asked that we take no action on the application. Which now brings us back to our first item on our agenda, which is a public hearing. It's a special permit location of use for S. Abdel Salam at 1191 North Colony Road. And Mr. Fitzsimmons, if you would please read the legal notice and note or correspondence for the record.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Legal notice, the following public hearing will be heard at the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission's meeting of Monday, August 10th at 7 p.m., remote only. Legal notice number 1406-20, special permit location of use for Abdisalam for a used car dealers and repairers license at 1191 North Colony Road, zoned RF40. We also received a copy of a Planning and Zoning interdepartmental referral that was sent from Planning and Zoning to the Fire Marshal's office that was received on July 28th. We also have a copy of a memorandum sent from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Town of Wallingford, Water and Sewer, to Casey Hand, Town Planner, and Tom Talbot, dated July 28th, 2020. We also have a copy of a letter received from Christopher Gagnon from B&L, addressed to Tom Talbot, Planner, Town of Wallingford, received in the Planning and Zoning Office July 31st, 2020. We also have a copy of an updated memo from the Fire Marshal's Office dated 8/4/20, addressed to Planning and Zoning. And we finally have a letter that was sent from the Planning and Zoning Office, signed by Thomas Talbot, Planner, addressed to the applicant on July 23rd, 2020. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. And at this point in time, if the applicant and or his representative would introduce themselves and begin their presentation. And before I do that, again, let me ask Mrs. Hand. Mrs. Hand, is there any information you're going to assist the applicant with?
Yeah, if you want to give me the ability.
I just made you a presenter now, Mrs. Hand. And again, at this point in time, if the applicant and or his representative would begin their presentation.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Chris Gagnon. For the record, I am a professional engineer licensed here in Connecticut. I work for BL Companies. We're out of 355 Research Parkway in your neighbor Meriden, Connecticut, and I'm here representing the applicant, Mr. Abdel Salam, and as well for the just so everyone knows, he is on the line, as well as the property owner. So if it comes to any questions, which they might be able to help out with, they obviously know a lot more about the history of the site than I do. They're more than willing to participate in this meeting that we have here today. I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to hear our application tonight. I hope everyone is staying healthy in these very interesting times that we are all going through. What we have in front of you today is what I would consider a fairly simple application. The applicant would like to use the property located at 1191 North Colony Road as a used car dealer and repairer shop. It at one time was a Meineke shop, and it has a history of being used for automotive use. So I don't think we're necessarily changing the use too much. I don't think there was the dealership going on, the car sales in the past. So that's why we're here as the special permit. So I think the really one interesting thing to note, currently there are 5 repair bays to the shop itself. What the applicant would like to do is maintain having 2 of those bays open as keep them open as the repair bay is. And then the remaining 3 bays would essentially be used for car sales inventory. So as somewhat of a interior showroom, for lack of a better way to describe the site, describe the activity. So we prepared a site plan here depicting the required number of parking spaces for the 2 repair shops and 2 repair bays, excuse me, and the employees that would be involved there, and associated parking for anybody using the site. And then we also indicated that there would be an additional 7 spaces exterior to the property that would be reserved for the inventory sales, and then the remaining could be stored inside the building. At the risk of having a very quick presentation, I think that pretty much covers what we are proposing to do on the site. We've had numerous conversations with Mr. Talbot. He has been exceedingly helpful on this project. Thank you very much, Mr. Talbot. We appreciate your help on that. We have coordinated with the Water and Sewer Department based on the comments we received from them. Mr. Kruger is on vacation right now, but I have had conversations with Mr. Esposito to ensure that we fully understand the 3 comments and requirements that they would like us to meet. So we will have that. We will be able to provide that to the Water and Sewer Department this week to put a bow on that aspect of the application. So at the risk of being brief, I think it's appropriate for this level of application. We're not proposing any site plan revisions, no excavation, no new construction. So it's a fairly turnkey move-in situation. So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions, as would the applicant or the owner, if there are any questions that would be appropriate for them. And thank you very much for your time, everyone.
Hey, thank you very much, sir. Before I go off to commission members, Mr. Talbot, any questions, comments on the application?
No, I think,
We'll take that as a no then. Good, thank you. All right, going out to commission members. Let's start with Mr. Fitzsimmons. Mr. Fitzsimmons, if you have any questions for the applicant.
I just have one. I appreciate the fact you're right now you're saying you're not proposing any site changes, correct?
That is correct, sir.
The only question I had is, what about signage for the site? We've got a large number of auto dealers on that strip, Route 5, and both new cars, used cars. What's your plan for signage?
I think I'm going to pass that one on to the applicant. Sam, would you be willing to answer that question for us? Don't forget to take yourself off of mute before you jump on.
Yes, sure. Hi, everyone. We're gonna meet the requirement of the town signage.
Excuse me,
So
excuse me,
we're gonna.
sir. Would you please just identify yourself if you would, please, sir?
Sure. My name is Sam Abdul Salam. I'm the applicant. We're gonna follow the requirement of the town of permit for the signage. That's what we're gonna follow.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Thank you.
Mr. Cohan, any questions for the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is really a question for Mr. Talbot or Mrs. Hand, actually, because they're in the process of reapplying for the expired aquifer protection permit. Do we know how long that actually takes to get that renewed?
Turn it over to Mr. Talbot.
I know that's a condition of approval, which I think
Well,
is warranted, but I was just wondering how long it takes.
Well, like most of the administrative approvals that you do that involve you seeing them before they're actually approved, we tell people 2 weeks. They submitted the application, I believe sometime last week. So I think it's going to be about another week before we'll be able to sign off on the updated registration.
Okay, great. That's it.
I don't know. You may have even received. You may have even received the application, but maybe not. I don't know. But it was sent out.
Okay, thank you. All set.
Thank you, Mr. Cohan. Moving down the list, Mr. Benoit, any questions for the applicant?
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Allenson,
The application answered all my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. And finally, Mr. Hine.
I just have a couple follow-up questions just to make sure I understand the process here. There is currently a pending application for a license under the aquifer protection or under the APA. Do I understand that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And is it that there's a number of activities that fall under the APA regulations that were spelled out by Mr. Kruger in his July 28th, 2020 memo, including repair or maintenance of vehicles, car washing, and auto detailing. Are those activities that will be able to be conducted once the license is granted? Or are those activities that are never going to be allowed on the property? I guess maybe Mrs. Hand, I don't know what the answer is to that.
Mrs. Hand, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. So this site was previously registered for certain regulated activities, which I believe were limited to the repair of vehicles. And the registration expired, but there is a 5-year look back under the statute and our regs, which are modeled based on the state regs. So they can re-register for the same activities that were previously registered for the site. If they wanted to add new activities, that's a more involved process where instead of just a new registration, they would have to apply for a permit. And the major difference is instead of just having best management practices, so best management practices are required for every registration. They have to basically provide us with information about what they do if there's a spill and things like that. And they have to do, I'm sorry, they have to provide a materials management plan. If they wanted to add new activities with a permit, which a registered site can do, those are the only sites that can, but if they wanted to add any new activities, then they would have to sort of take further steps in terms of stormwater management and things like that. So I believe, and Mr. Talbot could confirm this, but my understanding is that they're just re-registering their previously registered activities.
Okay.
And the car, and I should add, the dealership, we've spoken to the state about this in the past, our aquifer protection contact at the state, and adding the dealership activity or adding a dealership, the sale of vehicles is not considered a regulated activity. The repair is, but the sale of the vehicles is not a regulated activity. So that adding that component doesn't need like a new permit or anything.
Fair enough. Thank you. And so I guess then my question, I just have two questions for the record to the applicant. And that is, for the record, you will not be conducting any car washing or auto detailing activities at the site. Do I understand that correctly?
Someone for the
There
applicant
would
like to
be
answer
no
that
car
question?
wash, will be no car wash, no auto detail, or no body work either. So.
And these cars, at this point, do you have a plan? I mean, I assume when you put your cars out there to be sold, you're going to want them to look nice and clean. And I mean, do you have a plan for how you're going to wash those cars, or where you're going to wash them, or how you're going to detail them?
Absolutely. So when we put the car, before we put the car out, we do repair and everything. When the car is going to be ready for sales, we send it to the local car wash, which is a lot around us. We put it through the car wash will be more even cost efficient for us, to be honest, to run it through the car wash, and they'll bring it back to the line and we will put it for sale.
Okay, I appreciate that. I just wanted to get your responses on those questions on the record. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Heim. If there's no other questions from commission members, this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on this application? If you would, again, as I mentioned, there's that chat bubble on the upper right portion of the of your screen. Just hit the chat bubble and type something in, and I'll just wait a minute or two to see if anybody from the public would like to make a comment. I don't see anyone interested in making a comment. I also see that we do have a caller. If there's someone on the phone that wanted to make a comment, this would be the appropriate time to do that. And I see that we do have a question from Joan Rivers Bardwell. Question is there a sign pole approved on the property? And if someone You're going to have to unmute yourself.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Joan is the owner of the property. There you go. You on, Joan?
Yeah,
Uh,
I just,
yeah,
with the
yourself
site,
for the record with your name and address, so everybody knows where you're coming from.
all right, Joan Rivers Bardwell. Do you want my home address or the property address?
Your home address, please.
98 Beaver Dam Road, Woodstock Valley, Connecticut, 06282.
Thank you.
There is a sign pole on the property, has been there since 1978, since it was approved back in 1978. So I would presume, like Meineke and the Amcos and the other tenants that we've had through the 42 years, have always used that. So that came up before. I just wanted to let somebody know that he wouldn't, if he's approved, that he would be able to use that sign pole that's been there. It has light to it and everything.
Thank you. Any other member? I'm sorry, continue, please.
I don't know if anybody else had questions for me. We built the property in 1978. We've owned it since 1978. And I've had, besides our AMCO that we originally put in there and had for many years, I've had Speedy Muffler, Monroe Muffler, several other AMCO dealers, and Meineke, and now Sam. I just wanted to say about the aquifer. The aquifer, I think it came about in 2000, if I'm guessing on the date, but 2006, when I had an AMCO dealer in there, and it has been paid for and maintained throughout this entire time, except for my last tenant. And the town came and approved everything, but he never paid the $500. So I apologize for that. I covered that as soon as I knew. I never got a letter from the town, so I had no idea that was in arrears. So I apologize for that.
Good enough. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And I don't see anyone else at this point in time that would like to speak on this application. So seeing none, and again, I did ask for caller number 2, someone on the phone. Apparently that individual has no comment. So that being said, I don't know if the applicant would like to make any final comments before I ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Certainly you're not obligated to.
No, I would just like to say thank you to town staff for working with us. They were helpful as usual. Thank you, Tom. I didn't have a lot of chance to talk with Casey, but I'm sure she would have been just as helpful. But
Sure.
Tom was excellent. Thanks for all your help. We appreciate it.
Good enough. Thank you. And if there's no further questions from any of the commission members or any of the staff, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the public hearing for application 406-20, special permit location of use for Abdel Salam for a used car dealers and repairs license at 1191 North County Road, Zone RF40.
Second.
A second by Mr. Fitzsimmons, voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Cohan,
Yes.
Mr. Allenson,
yes,
and I also vote yes. So at this particular point in time, I'd entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve application 403-20, special permit used car dealer and repairs for Samar Abdul Salam to allow a used car dealer repair at 1191 North County Road, as shown on plans entitled Proposed Development 1191 North County Road and South Broad Street, Wallingford, Connecticut, dated July 8th, 2020, revised to July 31st, 2020, subject to maximum of 7 for sale vehicles displayed outside in areas shown on submitted site plan. Comments in letter from Tom Talbot, planner, to applicant dated July 23rd, 2020. Comments and recommended conditions of approval in interoffice memorandum from Eric Kruger, senior engineer, water and sewer division, to Stacy Hand and Tom Talbot, town planners, dated July 28th, 2020, including obtaining an updated aquifer protection district registration, and comments from the fire marshal dated August 4th, 2020.
We have a motion on the application. Are there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'd entertain a second on the motion.
A second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. At this point in time, voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Cohan,
Yes.
Mr. Allenson,
Yes.
and I vote yes on the application. The application's been approved. Have a good evening, gentlemen. It brings us to our next item on our agenda, which is another public hearing. It's a special permit, also a location of use, New England truck equipment at 4 Barker Drive. Again, Mr. Fitzsimmons, if you would please note and read the legal notice and then note all correspondence for the record.
Sure. The Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearing. Number 407-20, special permit location of use for New England truck equipment for a new vehicle dealers and repairs license at 4 Barker Drive, zoned T30. We received correspondence from Keith Hemstock from New England Truck Equipment dated July 25th, 2020. On July 28th, received correspondence from the Office of the Wallingford Fire Marshal. And on July 31st, correspondence was directed to Casey Hand, Wallingford Town Planner, and Tom Talbot, Planner, from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Wallingford Water and Sewer Divisions. And there's also correspondence sent from the Planning and Zoning Office, Thomas Talbot, Planner, dated August 6, 2020, to Mr. Keith Hernstock, New England Truck Equipment. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. And at this point in time, I'd ask the applicant and or his representative to introduce themselves and begin their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure you can hear me okay. This is Keith Hemstock.
Yes, I can. I assume everyone else can also. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I apologize for not having the video. It's one of my first go-to meetings, and apparently our computer is not hooked up for a camera. So I do apologize for not having a video. So New England Truck Equipment is my business with my partner, Ronald Burr. We've been in business since 2002. We've been on Barker Drive since 2013. We do own the building as well. We sell and install truck equipment. Right now, specifically, we build snow and ice removal vehicles. We've done work for several municipalities in the state of Connecticut, including the state of Connecticut. Many of the trucks that you see plowing the streets and that have sanders in them come through our facility. We are entering a phase in our business for attempted growth to become. We are right now. We've been appointed a GAP-VAX. That's GAPVAX dealer, and GAP-VAX manufactures and installs vacuum equipment on trucks. So the big trucks that you'll see vacuum out the sewers come from companies like GAP-VAX. So we've become a dealer for them, and these trucks will be all manufactured in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and we will merely represent them and sell them. So they will come through our facility. We've actually sold our first 2, and they were delivered up into New Hampshire for on-site for a nuclear power facility. We found out through that sale that in order to take title of these vehicles, we must, through the state of Connecticut, become a licensed dealer. Therefore, the application is in front of the committee today to become a dealer so that we can fulfill our obligation to take title of these trucks and to resell these trucks. Everything we deal with is brand new vehicles. We don't do any used or any kind of engine repair or anything like that. Everything is clean and brand new from our facility. And we've just found out that we need a dealer license per our dealer agreement and per the state of Connecticut to transfer title for these vehicles.
Okay, is that the extent of your presentation, sir?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Again, Mr. Talbot, any comments on the application? It seems relatively straightforward.
Correct. Yeah, because of the nature of the permit, you're not seeing any proposed site change. Not storing vehicles on the site.
Okay, thank you. So at that point in time now, or at this point in time, or whatever point in time we are at, I'd ask commission members if they have any questions, starting out with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
No comment.
Thank you. Mr. Benoit,
No comment.
Mr. Cohan,
No questions, no comment. Thank you.
Mr. Allenson,
No, thank you, sir.
Mr. Hine.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And again, at this point, I have no questions for the applicant. I think it's a relatively straightforward application. As Mr. Talbot had indicated, they're not making any changes to the site. But again, this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment on this application? Again, like in the past, there's that chat bubble on the upper right portion of your screen. Just hit it and write in your comments, and I will wait just a few moments to see if anyone has any comments. And seeing that we have no one interested in the public from commenting on the application, again, I'll bring it back to the applicant if he would like to make any final comments, and you're not obliged to. I think it's a fairly straightforward application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No additional comments.
Okay. And again, I take it, Mr. Talbot, you have no further comments, and I suspect commission members, I don't see that any commission members have any additional comments. That being the case, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the public hearing for application 407-20, special permit location of use for New England truck equipment for a new vehicle dealers and repairers license at 4 Barker Drive, Zone T30.
I have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. Voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Cohan,
Yes.
Mr. Allenson,
Yes.
and I vote yes. At this point in time, I'd entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we make a motion to approve application 407-20, special permit new vehicle dealer and repairers for New England truck equipment to allow a new vehicle dealer repairer at 4 Barker Drive as shown on plans entitled Proposed Site Development Plan, New England Truck Holdings LLC, 4 Barker Drive, Wallingford, Connecticut, dated June 28, 2020, revised to July 6, 2020, subject to comments and recommended condition of approval in inter-office memorandum from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Water and Sewer Division, to Casey Hand and Tom Talbot, Town Planners, dated July 31st, 2020, and comments from the Fire Marshal dated July 24th, 2020.
We have a motion on the application. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. Voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons on the application.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit,
Yes.
Mr. Cohan,
Yes.
Mr. Allenson,
Yes.
and I vote yes, your application's been approved. Have a good evening.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Committee, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good, thank you. Moving on to our agenda, item number 3, which is also a public hearing. It's a special permit, also a location of use. It's for C. Malave at 3 Buell Street. And again, Mr. Fitzsimmons, if you would please read the legal notice and then note all correspondence for the record.
Sure. The Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold the following public hearing remotely at their meeting on Monday, August 10th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Application number 408-20. It's a special permit application for location of use from Malav for a used car dealer and repairs license at 3 Buell Street, zoned I-40. Correspondence was received in the Planning and Zoning Office on July 28th, 2020 from the Office of the Wallingford Fire Marshal. Correspondence was directed to Casey Hand, Wallingford Town Planner, and Tom Talbot Planner, from Eric Kruger, Town of Wallingford Senior Engineer, Water and Sewer Divisions. And also a letter was sent from the Planning and Zoning Office, signed by Thomas Talbot Planner, addressed to the applicant on August 6th, 2020.
Thank
all
you,
I have.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. And at this point in time, I'd ask the applicant and/or his representative to introduce themselves and begin their presentation.
How you doing, guys? My name is Carlos Malave. I'm at 3 Buell Street, Wallingford, Connecticut, 06492. And I'm trying to use this location as dealers and repairs. I'm trying to do the permit for it. Building is there's 4 bays in the building. I have unit 2. It's 15 square 100 feet. It's 40 by 60 feet. And then in total I have 13 spaces, 5 for cars to be shown at. And then in the front of the building I have handicap parking, extra parking. Also in the rear, they're divided. I have 7 parkings in the rear, also extra handicap parking. And I'm just trying to do just general repair and then sell maybe a few cars or so.
Sure, thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
Good. I'd just like to let everyone know, Mrs. Hand was assisting with providing some maps for the applicants. Unfortunately, her internet connection has been disruptive. So, the information that you're seeing right now is not from the applicant.
If you like, I can. I have a diagram I can put up. If you give me a minute, and I can show you guys.
Oh, absolutely. That would
Okay,
work great.
1 second, please. Sorry about that. 1 second. This works. I'm not sure if you guys can see it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be able to put it up on your computer, but I understand this is the best you can do. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, it's pretty much off of Old Church Street. And then Buell is right on a dead end street. And then Church Street, which is Route 68. It's right at the main road. But other than that, that's pretty much. I apologize. I should be more prepared. This is my first time.
Oh, no, that's nothing to apologize for. We were going to be able to assist you with your presentation, but again, unfortunately, Mrs. Hand lost her internet connection. That's fine. Would that be the extent of your presentation?
Yes.
Okay. At this point in time, I'd ask Mr. Talbot, do you have any comments on the application?
No.
And I'll go to commission members, if any commission members have any questions on the application, beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
No comment.
Mr. Benoit,
No comment.
Mr. Cohan,
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Allenson,
No, thank you, sir.
and Mr. Hine.
None. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And at this point, I have no questions for the applicant, but again, this is a public hearing. So at this point in time, are there any members of the public that would like to comment on the application? And I see that Mr. Lachlan, he has questions and concerns of a neighbor across the street to present. So, Mr. Lachlan, if you would please just identify yourself and make your comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Jim Lachlan, an attorney in town. My office is on North Main Street. I represent Robison Properties across Church Street / Buell Street. When you're coming down 68 toward where Grossman's used to be, on the right-hand side is 60 Church Street. We are neighbors across the street. First and foremost, Robinson endorses this application. The idea of improving business down this dead-end street is a great idea. And so certainly we aren't looking to have the application denied. We're hoping that if the applicant, Mr. Malave, is amenable to it, that the meeting would be tabled until next month so that we could get additional information. Just reviewing the
We're getting
plan.
Mr. Lachlan, if I could just interrupt you just for a second. We're getting feedback from somebody's microphone. We're getting a scratching sound. So if someone is not, other than Mr. Lachlan, not speaking, if everybody would please just mute their microphones and perhaps we can eliminate that sound. Okay, if you continue, please, Mr. Lachlan.
Thank you. Again, we aren't against it. We're just hoping to get more information. If you look at the plan that I picked up off of your website, great website, the plan is from 2003. Dean Natale and Associates were the engineers on it. They're no longer in business. And the survey was done by Roz Page in 2003. So everything that's not handwritten was completed in 2003 when the application was for self-storage. Our concern is with the water runoff. There's been discussion, there's been lots of wrangling. What are we going to do with water problems that are already suffered by 60 Church Street and its neighbors, running down from Barnes Park through the movie theater, across Route 5 and onto this property? It's the lowest point. That's where water goes. Our concern for Robinson is that will this new use aggravate that problem? It seems to be uphill from where Robinson's property is, but there's none of that detail provided in this plan or anywhere in the application. You will also see on the fire marshal's comments, they too are looking for more information. If you look at the title of the map from 2003, it's not a site plan, and a lot of the material that is necessary for a site plan application isn't included. So what we have is we have a use for self-storage that's not applicable to a repairer's or car dealership, and it's also from 20 years ago. And so, yes, please, when we get more information, we will endorse it. But for now, we're hoping that it will be postponed so we can get that more information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Yes, at this point in time, I would go back to the applicant if he would like to comment on the comments from Attorney Lachlan.
Yes. I understand what he's saying. I'm very clear of it. If the issue might be if he's worried about any detailing or washing in the property, there's none of that going to be applicable in the property. I've already spoke to the water department. And then, so my plan was, cars have to be displayed. They have to, get cleaned. I have a few, there's a few car washes around the area. And that was my plan. If I do anything inside, which I highly doubt, would just be just a repair. And if I have to, polish or buff a car, that's pretty much what I was planning of doing. Not sure if that answers your question, but that's more what it's forward to.
Thank you. Mr. Talbot, would you like to comment on that?
Well, I would just say that based on this site plan that we have, first of all, I'm not sure there's anything on this plan that would indicate that anything that's going on there now would be causing a problem for 60th Street. I don't think there's anything that the applicant is proposing to do that would add to a problem if there was one. I would, before you considered tabling this, I would ask that the people that want this continued to be pretty specific about what it is they don't see on this plan that they would expect to see on a plan. In other words, are they expecting that the fact that the survey is 20 years old is immaterial unless they have some indication that the boundaries have changed somehow? We don't make people get new surveys based on just the age of an existing survey. And I would just think that in order to ask that something like this be continued, you'd want to be pretty specific about what your concerns were. And at least at this point, I'm not hearing anything that rises to that level of specificity.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. Any commission members that would like to comment any further on the application or some of the items that have been discussed? Or I'd also ask for their opinion. I see none. I would ask Mrs. Hand if you would like to make any comments on the application. And you're going to have to turn your volume up. We can't hear you. Up, still can't. And we're having a problem hearing you. One more time. I don't believe Mrs. Hand has any comments. Is that correct? I believe that's correct. Thank you. I guess I would say at this particular point in time, I think Mr. Talbot has been fairly direct as far as the plan and what's been presented, and I would tend to agree with him. I don't see any real specific issues that have been raised. I think what's been talked about is pretty much in generalities. So at this particular point in time, if there are no other comments from the public.
May I respond, Mr. Chairman?
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks. Again, it is general, but none of the detail on this site plan application addresses car repair or dealership. It's all addressed just to self-storage. And maybe it's just a small spot. I didn't gather that from when I was reviewing it myself. But rules have to apply. And if this is uphill and there's going to be any water runoff, or if there's not proper management of auto treatment waste or treatment of auto waste, or if there's not a surveyor signing off or an engineer signing off, and it's just a person without that professional training doing it, you can't help but wonder, are the same standards being applied to everybody across the board? And I think those standards are pretty well articulated in the regulation, and they should be followed.
Thank you. I guess I would just, I think at least our acting town planner or has indicated his opinion on it. I believe the gentleman indicated there's no car washing. Is that correct, sir? There's no car washing that's taking place on the property. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's no car washing, and anything there's no floor washing at all. Anything that spills or anything has to be dried up with a speedy dry or the cloths. And I did make an account with Safety Clean. And they're willing to pick up any waste that I have with the oil. If there's any antifreeze or anything that has to be taken out, they're willing to take it. So all that, it's pretty much moving forward.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
So again, at this particular point in time, if there's no more comments from the public, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the public hearing for application 408-20, special permit location of use for Melav for a used car dealers and repairs license at 3 Buell Street, Zone I-40.
I have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons, voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Benoit. Mr. Cohan.
Yes.
Mr. Allenson.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Public hearing's closed. At this point in time, I'd entertain a motion on the application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve application 408-20, special permit used car dealer and repairs for Melav to allow a used car dealer repairs at 3 Buell Street, as shown on plans entitled Proposed Site Development Plan, Buell Street and Church Street, dated January 1st, 2003, revised to October 1st, 2003, and further amended by applicant, subject to comments and recommended condition of approval in interoffice memorandum from Eric Kruger, Senior Engineer, Water and Sewer Divisions, to Casey Hand and Tom Talbot, Town Planners, dated July 29th, 2020. Comments from Fire Marshal dated July 24th, 2020. Outside display of for sale vehicles limited to 5 parking spaces shown as submitted plans.
Thank you. We have a motion on the application. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons, voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes to approve.
Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Mr. Cohan.
Yes.
Mr. Allenson.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Your application's been approved. Have a good evening. Moving
Thank you
down.
for listening.
Moving down, we're going down to new business. It's item number 6 on our agenda. It's revocation of notice of nullification of subdivision 1345, 1411, and 1443 Durham Road. And again, Mr. Fitzsimmons, if you would please note any and all correspondence for the record on this particular application.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We received a copy of a memo sent from Janice M. Small, Corporation Counsel, Town of Wallingford, addressed to Casey Hand, Town Planner, dated July 29th, 2020. We also received a copy of a correspondence sent from the law firm of Fishbein Law Firm, addressed to Corporation Counsel, Janice Small, and the Zoning Enforcement Officer on May 13th, 2020. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzsimmons. And again, Mr. Talbot, if you give us just a brief overview of the application, and I believe probably the applicant's attorney would also like to make some comments.
I don't want to overcomplicate it. You have Janice's memo.
I'll just get.
You have Corporation Counsel's memo, and you have some notes from myself. In a nutshell, this has to do with a 3-lot subdivision that was approved in 1986 on Durham Road. Section of Durham Road that is state road, state highway. And at the time of approval, there was a requirement for road improvements along the front of the 3 lots. Subsequent to that approval, the applicant posted a bond for the road improvements with the state of Connecticut because it was a state road. Subsequent to that, the state decided they didn't want the improvements. They gave the bond back. However, for various reasons, the town still wanted the improvements done. So after the 10-year period, subdivision period was up, they filed a notice on the land records. I think you have a copy of it, essentially nullifying the subdivision itself. And that what that's done is it's left those 3 lots in sort of a legal limbo ever since. Now, recently, one of the property owners, well, before they did that, I'm sorry, I have to go back a little bit. Before they actually did that, the subdivision map was filed. All 3 properties, or 2 of the 3 properties, are transferred to other owners. They're in 3 separate forms, 3 lots, 3 separate owners. And the town actually issued a building permit for one of the lots, and there's a house on one of the lots. But based on its 1996 action, all of these lots are in sort of a legal limbo. Now somebody wants to transfer one of the lots, and it's this nullification is making it difficult for them to do that. What the town attorney or corporation counsel is telling you is that essentially the town really had no right to ask for the road improvements in the first place. So the nullification was improper. So what you're asking to do now, what you're being asked to do now is to revoke that nullification. We will have to post another notice on the land records doing so. So these lots will become subdivision, the original 1980 subdivision will be effective again, and they will be lots of record, and people will be able to transfer these lots, and there will be no road improvement.
Thank you, Mr. Talbot. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have a representative from the applicant that would like to comment on that. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Norman Fishbein Law Firm, representing the applicant. Mr. Talbot gave a very succinct version of what happened. I just want to say that this particular lot that I'm involved with, which is lot 3, has been taxed consistently over the years as a valid building lot, as opposed to lot 1, which is on the other side of the house that's already been built, which specifically was said is not a building lot for whatever reason on the assessor's record. So my client, who's the owner of lot 3, is now owning a property which has been taxed consistently as an approved building lot. So it just seems to be unfair. And under the statute, it doesn't appear the town had the legal authority to do this, since all 3 lots had already been transferred out. And the statute in question doesn't allow the nullification to happen. What it does allow them to do is to call a bond. But there was no bond here for the town of Wallingford to call. So in order for equity to apply here, I think the nullification should be revoked so that my client, who owns lot 3, can go ahead and get a building permit if he chooses to do so.
Thank you, Attorney Fish. Thank you, Attorney Fishbein. Any comments from any commission members concerning this particular application? And I'll start with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Nothing.
Mr. Vanoy.
Nothing.
Mr. Cohan.
Unfortunately, yeah, I do have a couple comments. I read through this several times, and a little bit confusing to say the least, but based on the explanation, I understand what's, required and what the consequences are. But I guess my question is, this came to light because somebody wanted to, do something with their property. Um, and the time frame for this is really extensive. I mean, this is a couple decades, right? Aren't there any, other checks and balances that are in place maybe, that, we didn't have to wait so long to get, notification that there's an issue? So I don't know who that's question is directed to, but, it seems like, something in the process didn't work right.
Okay, I think, Mr. Cohen, I think that probably would be a question that we should direct to our corporate counsel, in this particular case.
Yeah, I agree with you, but they're not here.
Oh, I know.
So that's really my comment. I understand what the remedy is. In my humble opinion, I don't think again that the time frame should have gone this far, and it sounds like the fact that the commission, or I don't want to point the finger at anybody, did something incorrectly years ago that led us to this point, which is besides the point at this point. So I'm done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. No, I think what, I guess, as far as, the commission taking action, I believe that was an action that was recommended by a prior town planner. Certainly that doesn't justify if the action was not correct, but I will ask our corporate counsel to, to address the issue you had just concerning the whole timing on this. And with that, you're welcome. And, with that, I would go to Mr. Allenson. Do you have any questions?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thanks. And Mr. Hine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. I just think this is long past due to fix. I'd like to see it fixed, and I think it would be the right thing to do for us to address this now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I certainly agree with you. I think this is something that obviously should not have happened, but it did happen, and certainly it's other commission members mentioned it's long overdue to have it addressed. So if there's no other comments from commission members, and I don't see anyone from the public that would like to comment on this.
The
So
only
with that,
other thing I wanted to say was I appreciate the time that was spent by Janice Small going through the material that I sent over to her, and also the cooperation of the town planner's office in understanding this very complicated situation. So I want to publicly thank them for their input.
well, thank you. And with that, if there's no other comments from commission members, and I do not see any, at this point in time, I'd entertain a motion on this particular application.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we revoke the action of the Wallingford Planning and Zoning Commission of June 10th, 1996, declaring that the 3-lot subdivision number 118 through 86 for Peletsky is null and void in filing of a new notice of the town land records acknowledging the existing lots of 1345, 1411, and 1443 Durham Road as legal lots of record, because road improvements along Durham Road that were not completed and were the basis for the nullification were improperly required by the commission per memorandum of Janice M. Small, Corporate Counsel, to Casey Hand, Town Planner, dated July 29, 2020. And the subdivision map had been filed on the land, town land records. The lots had transferred into individual ownership in a single-family dwelling constructed at 1411 Durham Road, previous to the commission's June 10, 1996 action and the June 14, 1996 filing of notice of expiration on the town land records.
We have a motion on the application. Do we have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. Voting beginning with Mr. Fitzsimmons.
Yes.
Mr. Benoit.
Yes.
Cohen.
Yes.
Mr. Allenson.
Yes.
And I vote yes on the application. The revocation has been approved.
Thank you all.
Moving down to the next item on our agenda, we have bond releases and reductions. Mr. Talbot, what do we have?
The bond release for 605.
Subdivision Di Natale?
Yeah, the bond release for subdivision Di Natale, that can be released.
Is that the only one of the?
911 First Street, Gargano, that can be released also.
Okay, Mr. Talbot is recommending the release of the bonds for subdivision Di Natale 605 North Elm Street, as well as the release of the site plan for John Gargano Limited Partnership at 9 and 11 First Street. Do we have a motion to release either one or both of those?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we release the bonds for application 101-17 subdivision Di Natale 605 North Elm Street and application 226-16 site plan John Gargano Limited Partnership 9 and 11 First Street.
We have a motion to release those two bonds. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Fitzsimmons. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. Moving on, Mr. Talbot, I'll take you down to we're at the administrative reports. Does anyone have any questions on any of the administrative approvals on item number 10? And it appears that no one does. And I noticed that Mrs. Torrey is on our call, and we have the next item is agenda item number 11, which is ZBA decisions. Does anyone have any questions on ZBA decisions? Seeing none, moving on now to the ZBA agenda for our August 17th meeting. I'm not sure, Mrs. Torrey, if you'd like to make any comments on any items on that agenda. Yes, Mrs. Torrey. And I think we have lost her. Zoning enforcement log. Anyone have any questions on the zoning enforcement log? And I don't see any questions on the zoning enforcement log. Which brings us to the end of our meeting. I believe, Mrs. Han, are you still on the line?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you finally.
Yay.
Good.
Sorry about that. My internet connection, we had some sort of failure at on our internet connection, so I had to call in.
Oh, that's fine. I believe you wanted to make some comments. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. So I just wanted, I think most, if not all of you are aware that I've decided to stay home. I'll be leaving my position as town planner, and I've decided to stay home with my daughter. It was a very difficult decision. I've really, really enjoyed working for the town. And I just wanted to thank the commission and thank you, Mr. Chairman, especially, but thank the whole commission just for all of your hard work and dedication in the time that I've been here. I've been here just over 12 years, and it's gone by fast. And I just feel like I've been really, really fortunate to get to work for a commission that's so professional and so thoughtful in their actions and their decisions. So I'll miss you all. I'll miss the town very, very much. And I will make myself available if there are any questions, coming up, because it's been so sort of my return has been short-lived. I'm trying to sort of ease the transition, but yeah, mostly I just wanted to thank the commission very much for the opportunity to work for you. It's been wonderful. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Hand. I'd certainly for me, and also I think on behalf of the commission, I'd certainly like to thank you for your service to the town. I think you've always handled yourself in a very professional manner, and you've certainly conducted the operation of the planning department in a very professional manner. I've always found you to be very approachable, very knowledgeable about the regulations, and I think one of your greatest attributes, certainly you've contributed in many ways concerning regulation changes, our plan of conservation and development, but I think you've always shown a willingness to work with applicants, bring them through the application process, and to help them kind of navigate through the regulations to make a project happen. I've had several conversations with Tim Ryan, who's the economic development specialist for the town, and he always has been very complimentary of you and the work that you do, and how you work with him to help make make projects happen in this town. So certainly I think you're going to be missed, and certainly everything you've done for the town is greatly appreciated. And I think, on behalf of myself, and I think all commission members, we wish you the best as you go on in the next chapter of your life.
Well, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. That means a lot to me.
And before I ask for a motion to to adjourn, rather, I see that Mrs. Torre has joined us again, and I don't know if she would like to make any comments on any of the ZBA applications.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, certainly, but my apologies for technical difficulties. Somehow I lost my connection, so I missed the last, so many moments. But however, if I may answer any questions or comment regarding ZBA, I'll be more than welcome to do so.
And again, I'll just go back to the commission members if anyone has any questions on any of the ZBA decisions or anything on the August 17th agenda. Anybody has, just raise your hand. And I see no one waving, so I think at this particular point in time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we close the planning and zoning meeting today.
Call it adjournment.
Whatever it's called, right? Adjournment.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second that. Thank you.
Second, Mr. Fitzsimmons. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? We're adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good evening, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good luck, Casey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Casey.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Casey.
Thank you.
Good luck, Casey. All the best.
Thanks. Thanks.